Tonight on What's for Dinner, we're going to be cooking a chicken, sausage, and tortellini with vegetables using all the ingredients you see on the screen here. We'll start by getting the pan over medium heat. We'll go ahead and then unpack the chicken cutlets, getting them onto a plate so that we can season them up. So now we got the chicken out of the package, we're going to go ahead and get our hands washed, get everything cleaned up. Now that the pan has got some heat underneath it, we'll go ahead and get these sausages added to the pan. So this will be the star of our show tonight. This is an Italian spice mix. What it is ostensibly Italian seasoning combined with a little bit of garlic, Parmesan cheese, and salt. It's a really good thing to keep around. It's a really good way to just add some quick Italian flavor to whatever you're cooking. It is fantastic on pizza or as a topper as well. But do be aware that it does have a salt content if you find this exact brand. Clean up our work area, and then go check on our sausages. They are starting to get a little bit of color, but not quite as much as I would like, so we're going to go ahead and just move them to the center of the pan and then focus on our vegetables. We'll start by julienning the onion. Go ahead and cut the caps off, cut it in half, and then get it sliced up. The onion cut, we'll go ahead and work on the zucchini. Same thing, cut off the ends, toss them out, and then we will split it in half and cut it into slices. Here we'll cut up some bell peppers. First, I find the best way is to cut off the feet, if you will. Julienne those, and then after you've cut them up, go ahead and cut these sides or the cheeks off of the pepper. This will give you nice flat pieces that are very easy to work with. This is about the best way that I've found to handle bell peppers. So with the peppers cut up, we'll go ahead and check on our sausages, which are starting to brown up nicely. We'll go ahead and roll them over to the other side. I'm actually going to go ahead and add a little oil to this pan. This is a combination of canola, grapeseed, and olive oil. It's really good for general cookery. The balsamic we're going to save for later. So with all of our vegetables accounted for, we'll go ahead and get our garlic chopped up. This is about maybe 1 cup, maybe 3/4 of a cup. Just going to go ahead and give it a really rough chop and then start to mince it. I don't want it to be in really fine pieces. I actually like big chunks of garlic throughout the food, but if that's not your thing, then feel free to go ahead and mince it smaller. With the vegetables seen to, we'll go ahead and check on the sausages again. They're not quite as brown as I would like them to, so I'm going to go ahead and move them on the outside of the pan so I can start cooking the first batch of chicken while the sausages finish up. A little bit more oil, we'll go ahead and get the chicken pieces in so they can start browning. And then we'll go ahead and turn the heat up just to compensate for all that extra meat that's been added. So go ahead and find yourself a pot big enough to handle all the tortellini. Go ahead and fill it with hot water, and then we're going to go ahead and add a little bit of salt to it. This is kosher salt, just 1 big pinch. It's maybe about 2 to 3 tablespoons worth. Right here you can see the chicken starting to brown up quite nicely, so we'll go ahead and get it flipped over to the other side. And you can see the sausages are getting a good color on them as well, so we'll go ahead and get all those flipped over. And we'll get some fire under the water just to start heating it up. Go ahead and grab your favorite jar of pasta sauce, set it off to the side for later. So we'll go ahead and check on the sausages. You can see I'm giving them a bit of a poke here. That's just to check to see how done they are. You can see there's a little bit of give when I poke it with my finger. That means it's still a little raw in the middle and not quite where we want it to be. And at this point, a few more minutes have passed. You can see that one's actually starting to split. That means those sausages are basically done. I'll go ahead and pull them out of the pan and then check the chicken. It's not quite as brown as I would like. You can kind of see me hesitate there. Same thing, give it a bit of a poke. You can see there's a little bit of give still, so it needs maybe 1 more minute. While it finishes cooking, I'll go ahead and get the rest of the chicken in the pan. By now it has finished off, so I'm going to go ahead and grab a clean pair of tongs and we'll get that chicken pulled out and make room for the rest of the raw chicken. We'll get that spread nice and evenly so it cooks evenly, and then turn the heat down a little bit. So after a few minutes, we'll come back and check the chicken. It's starting to brown up pretty nicely. We'll go ahead and get these pieces flipped over, and then get rid of this dirty plate. So we'll go ahead and keep checking the chicken. It is almost done. You can see me giving it the poke test. It's almost done, but not quite. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and move the rest of the chicken back into the pan. And then we're going to give all these chicken pieces a bit of a balsamic vinegar glaze. So we'll add in maybe 3 to 4 tablespoons worth of balsamic vinegar. Here you can see the pieces have got a nice dark brown color to them as the vinegar is reduced, and it's gotten a nice syrupy consistency. So we'll move those pieces out of the pan and then drizzle them with the reduced balsamic vinegar. We also want to get it out of the pan so it does not burn as we continue to cook everything else in here. So we'll add in some more oil, give it a few swirls around to coat the bottom of the pan, and then we're going to turn our attention to the vegetables. First up is going to be the garlic. We're just going to fry this off for maybe 30 seconds. It doesn't take very long, a few swirls and a couple of tosses. You can tell it's ready to have the next item added to the pan because the edges and the corners will start to get as they have a very faint little bit of a golden brown color to them. Once you see that brownness, it's time to add something else or the garlic may burn. So next up is going to be the onions. We'll go ahead and get them in the pan, give them a couple tosses, and then let them cook down. While the onions cook down, we're going to go ahead and start cutting the meat into bite-sized pieces. This is intended to be kind of a working dinner, so I want it to be something that you could eat with a fork. Go ahead and give the onions a quick toss halfway through just so they don't start to burn. Once you've got everything all cut up, you'll be left with this plate of delicious juice. We're going to go ahead and save that for later. Here you can see the onions are starting to turn a little translucent and get a nice golden brown color. That means it's time to season. So for this, I'm just going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. I actually keep it mixed together in the kitchen. This is about a 7-to-1 ratio of kosher salt to black pepper. So next in the pan is going to be our julienne bell peppers. This is going to add a little bit of sweetness to the dish as well as some good color. So those are go right in the pan. Once again, a few swirls, a couple tosses, and then we'll return it to the heat. We're not going to cook this for very long. Bell peppers tend to get a really nasty texture if they get overcooked, and this dish is far from being finished, so we want to add the next step pretty quickly. So we'll get the zucchini in there. And with the zucchini in the pan, we'll go ahead and season it one more time. And scare the dog while you're at it, and then go ahead and give everything a quick toss. So we got our big pot. We'll put it over very low heat. This is as low as my stove goes. Go ahead and add in your jar of pasta sauce and then fill it to about 1/3 the way with water. Give it a shake just to get any more flavors out of there and then add it to the pot. The idea here is we want to thin the sauce down a little bit so that it has room to cook down. Here I'm giving the zucchini and the peppers just a bit of a taste test just to see where they're at. They need a little bit more seasoning and maybe another minute or so of cook time. So while those cook down, I'm going to go ahead and get some fresh basil. There's no need to be fancy about this. It doesn't need to be a nice chiffonade. I'm just going to tear it up with my fingers into nice big pieces. After about a minute or two has passed, the veggies are about as cooked as I want them to be. Make sure you drop one onion on the floor and then move everything into the pot. With the veggies finished sauteing, we'll go ahead and deglaze that pan a little bit, get any flavors that may be stuck in there. We'll go ahead and add a little bit more balsamic vinegar, and at the same time, we're going to go ahead and glaze the sausage and chicken with a little bit more of the balsamic reduction. So with the vinegar in the hot pan, we'll add the meat right on top. We'll give it a few tosses and a few swirls around to coat it, and then we'll add it into the big pot with everything else. When you're transferring the meat into the big pot from the skillet, it's a good idea to go back and forth like I am here. It'll keep you from spilling any of the meat on the floor. Once it's all inside, go ahead and stir everything around so we can get all those flavors mixed together. Now with the meat off the front burner, we'll go ahead and get the pasta water up front. Once it's at a rolling boil, we'll dump in the tortellini. These will cook really, really fast, especially if, like me, you left the bag on the counter so it's already partially thawed. Here it only took me maybe a minute and a half. You can see the water's not even back to a boil yet. Go ahead, I'll give it a stir, and I'm gonna nick one out and see if it's cooked or not. And it was actually really, really cooked. It was actually a little overcooked. So I went ahead and I tried a second one just to make sure that wasn't a fluke, and that one was pretty well cooked as well. So at this point, I went ahead and I drained the tortellini, and then we'll move it into the big pot with everything else. You want to carefully stir this together. You'll see I'm pushing the spoon down the sides of the pot and then kind of pushing towards the middle. If you try to stir it any other way, there's a very good chance you would damage the tortellini. So with that, add in your torn up basil, give it one more good stir, grab a plate, and dinner is ready.